Hey there, this is Andrew, and I'm going to talk to you about Brobnar in Grim Reminders. Um, this is the first video that I'm recording for my house reviews for Grim Reminders. And I have to say, I still feel a little bit like I don't totally get the set. Um, it doesn't feel as intuitive to me as Winds of Exchange did. But clearly a lot of people are having great success with it. So it seems like it's a me problem, but I guess I should just say, I might take some of the things I say with a grain of salt because of that. Maybe I'll get smarter as we go through this, and I hope you do too. Um, but I just kind of want to acknowledge my own limitations there, I suppose. Um, okay, so having said that, there we go. Having said that, if you open up a Brobnar, if you open up a deck and you see Brobnar in it, um, we'll talk specifically about Grim Reminders, but I think a lot of this stuff holds true across all Brobnar. What are you gonna see? You're gonna see big creatures that want to fight and are gonna control the board. You're gonna see some board control, typically in the form of your opponent losing Amber. You're going to see cards that really like you controlling the board, that reward you for it, like Smith. You're going to see damage dealing cards. Weirdly, in this set, Brobnar gets some efficiency cards as well. That's a little different. Brobnar historically hasn't had a lot of taunt, but it gets some of that in this set too. And cards, and then some other cards that just want you to have big creatures. So yeah, and it's a really fun house to play, I think. Like, some houses are kind of like, okay, I have to go into this house because it's going to make me more efficient and set up for the future. But Brobnar, to me, feels like, wow, this is fun. I'm doing Keyforge. I'm doing the stuff. All right, so few questions that I wanted to talk through. The first is, if I could pick one other house to be, if I see Brobnar, what other house am I hoping I get on the Archon card with Brobnar? I think right now I have to say Grim Reminders, or sorry, Geistoid, and primarily because of Winds of Death. And I'm not sure. I tend to be a little bit conservative on saying that cards are problems. But Winds of Death seems to me like a problem, and I'm pretty concerned that they are going to need to errata that thing because it I think it is too strong and too easy to set up ridiculous situations with it. So really, it's just too consistent, is what it is. Yeah. So having said that, I think I want Geistoid, and I want Geistoid with Winds of Death. But that's just because Winds of Death is such a good card. Same, if I could get a Maverick, I'd want Winds of Death. If I could get a Legacy, that's a little more of a fun question. In this case, I love Relentless Assault so much, and I would love to see it back in a Grim Reminders deck. And yeah, and my favorite in-house combo here, I think, has got to be Beanstalk Might Makes Right. I don't have one of those, but it seems like it'd be a cool combo to get because the Beanstalk helps set you up, and then you can land the Might Makes Right, and then hey, you can Beanstalk get those creatures back later. It's kind of crazy. Brick Nasty with Beanstalk would be the next, maybe second there. That's also pretty good. And then last question I'll ask, if I could pick a Revenant to be in here, I have to go with Phantom Dreadnought. Just that ability to get a creature back, I think, is pretty good and helpful in Brobnar. And of course, Phantom Dreadnought. Well, Dreadnought is originally from Brobnar, so it's pretty fitting. It doesn't hurt that out of 4 Revenants that I have, one of them is a Phantom Dreadnought in Brobnar, so which I have enjoyed. Okay. So having said all that, let's go ahead and start in on the cards. So the first one we're going to see here, starting with these. Do I really want to start with rares? Maybe I should start with the commons. Let me flip it and start with the commons. By the way, these are the Grim Reminders collector set cards. They come at some of the higher backing levels, but they're kind of nice. If you want to do like a draft cube, they come in handy for that. Or if you want to do a video like this, they come in handy. All right. So yeah, we'll start in the comments. The first one here is Thunderdell, who's a 5-power giant. While you're haunted, Thunderdell gains splash attack 5. In my mind, this triggers as like not very exciting, but in Grim Reminders, you're gonna be haunted a lot, and so it might as well just say splash attack 5, and that's actually quite good. It's the best of Cowfine and Bingo Bang Bang, so quite good. Soul Bomb is an artifact with an amber. It's a weapon. It has Omni. If you're haunted, deal 4 damage to each creature. Destroy Soul Bomb. Early on, there was some speculation this would be like super good with, say, Rot Feast, and it just turns out that's not what's good about this set. It is a cool idea though, and I think this is a good card. But yeah, it just turns out that's not what is the high end of this set. Shock Herder is back from Winds of Exchange. Love it. It's a 3-power goblin with deploy, and when you play it, you ready and fight with a neighboring creature. That's just great and fun. And here's that efficiency in Brobnar that I mentioned. So this is a common. Recklessness is an action with an amber. It also enhances with a damage and a discard. And when you play it, each player discards 3 random cards from their hand, then draws 3 cards. That's super good. I mean, why is it so good? It's good because on your side, you're discarding 3 cards that you want to discard, right? You've picked when you're playing this, so you know what you're going to discard. It's not really random for you. Probably you have 3 or fewer cards left in your hand when you play it. So for you, it really reads discard the rest of your hand, draw 3 cards, probably. And on your opponent's side, they might have been hand shaping and you just knocked 3 cards out of their hand, which is very good. Now they do get to draw back up, but still, I think it's very good, and it can lead to the kind of like drag on turns that like Punctuated Equilibrium possibly could. So yeah, it's a good card. Then we have Ornar Skullface, a 5-power giant with Assault 3 and Scrap, deal 3 to a creature. Ornar seems fine to me. Just fine, but still fine. And Scrap, deal 3 is pretty good. Okay, then we have Mournful Barnburner, who is a 6-power giant that says after fight, discard the top 2 cards of a player's deck. Scrap, each player discards the top card of their deck. This one, I feel like I can kind of take it or leave it. I just don't think that effect is very exciting. Okay, Memorialize the Fallen has seemed to be pretty good. It's an action. When you play it, each player loses amber equal to the number of creatures in their discard pile. You can really punish somebody this way. Sometimes this amounts to just deleting all the amber in the game and kind of starting over with you maybe wiping the board and getting a good presence. So it seems like a pretty strong card, and again, coming in at common here. Then we have Lash Out. It's an action with an amber. It says if you're haunted, deal 3 damage to a creature with 3 splash. Otherwise, deal 3 damage to a creature. So you're going to deal 3 damage to a creature either way, but if you're haunted, you do the 3 splash damage. Great. Yeah, I think it's good. Good way to deal with elusives and such. All right. Heavyweight Morik is an 8-power giant with splash attack 2. And if you scrap it, you deal 2 damage to a friendly creature and 2 to an enemy creature. Yeah, I think it's fine. Then we have Headhunter, back from Coda, a 5-power giant with after fight gain 1. Yeah, this also is just fine. Nothing wrong with it. Then we have Fiery Jark, and this is real good because, okay, so Fiery Jark is a 4-power goblin that says play, destroy an enemy creature and a friendly creature. You may repeat this effect as many times as you like, as long as it is possible to repeat the entire effect. So it's basically bouncing Deathquark in a creature form in Brobnar. It's real good, and this is one of the ways, if you're thinking about, okay, how do I how do I deal with Bryozark? How do I make sure that I can, do something in a case where Bryozark comes out? This is actually a good answer to that, because it gives you a possibility to get it even from behind taunt or whatnot. Okay, it can even get through like a ward, right? As long as you have one other creature available. Then we have down to size. It's an action with an amber. When you play it, you choose an enemy creature, and until the end of the turn, that creature is considered to have 1 power and 0 armor. And this actually is also a really interesting card because it kind of gets around some things that protect a card. If a card has 1 damage on it and you down to size it, suddenly it will die because, and I think this might actually be Encounter Golem being thrown down right there. But yeah, it actually will die because even though it has a ward or whatever, it will die. The ward will replace the dying, and then it will die again until it really dies. So that can be pretty powerful in the right circumstances. Sometimes it's just an amber. If you don't have a way to deal the damage or do anything like that, it can be a little disappointing, but it's often good. Okay, now Cacophonous Rite is an action with an amber that says play ready and enrage a creature and each of its neighbors. And this actually is similar to Relentless Assault, which I mentioned earlier, but it also gives an amber. So now on the flexibility side, I'll say it's actually a little more flexible because you could enrage some enemy creatures without, they wouldn't fight on your turn, but you could do that and mess with the opponent that way. But more typically, the typical use case is you're going to use this on your own creatures for the ready effect, and then fighting will be the way you can use them. For that, I like Relentless Assault a little better because Relentless Assault works with off-house creatures, and so that's why I still slightly prefer Relentless Assault. But hey, I don't have. I think Cacophonous Rite is a pretty good card. Okay, now we have Brick Nasty, a 5-power giant Brocken, who says after another friendly Brobnar creature fights, gain 1 amber. Yeah, it's just a really good effect. So love to see that. Then we have Blunderbore, a 6-power giant, who says after fight, if you're haunted, your opponent loses 2 amber. Otherwise, your opponent loses 1. So compare this to like Groke, which just has the blanket fight, your opponent loses 1, but is 5 power, or Crump, who's a little more flexible. Your opponent can lose 1, even like if they happen to fight into him. But Blunderbore, if you're haunted, says your opponent loses 2. That's twice as good. So yeah, I think Blunderbore is an excellent card. Glad to have that anytime. Next, we have Berserker Slam. This is an action with an amber. When you play it, you deal 4 damage to a flank creature, and if the damage destroys that creature, its controller loses 1. This is a great Brobnar card. Love to see that. Maybe one of the very few good Brobnar cards in Worlds Collide. Okay, then we have the War Chest, and I think we are into, so this is the start of Uncommons. So the War Chest is an artifact and item. We didn't see an artifact in the commons, which is kind of interesting. That's actually really interesting. Is that true? Yeah, that's true. No, I lied. Soul Bomb. Okay. Whew. It's like there's got to be one. Okay. Back to real life. The War Chest is an artifact and item, and it says action, gain 1 amber for each enemy creature that was destroyed in a fight this turn. So this can be another way to boost your amber for your fighting. A little slower than Brick, definitely less exciting than Brick, but can be good. Then we have Sound the Horns. It's an action with an amber that has you discard cards from the top of your deck until you either discard a Brobnar creature or run out of cards. And if you discard a Brobnar creature this way put in your hand, it's different from, say, UFO or Lethalogica because those cards flip until you find a card of the corresponding house. Sound the Horns needs you to find a creature. So just an important distinction. Then we have Smith. It's an action with an amber that gives you 2 amber if you control more creatures than your opponent. Very nice because if you have a good Brobnar, you often will have more creatures than your opponent. Rickety Cyber Giant is an 11-power giant and cyborg that says after fight, deal 1 damage to Rickety Cyber Giant. It's fine. It's good for Might Makes Right. Then we have Raider of the Peaks. It's a 4-power goblin that says at the start of your turn, the player who controls the most powerful creature discards the top card of their deck. Yeah, that's good. Actually, I don't think it is. I think I think it's fine, but not necessarily great. Yeah, especially for being such a conditional ability. I think it probably could have been stronger. Plummet, I'm also just not a big fan of this. It's an action. When you play it, you discard your hand. Deal 1 damage to each creature for each card discarded this way. So just think, like, if you take your whole turn to play this and you don't play anything else, you're probably discarding 5 cards. So you're dealing 5 damage to each creature. Is that really, like, don't even get a pip for it? I don't know. Can't do anything else. That seems like a bit of a bummer to me. Yeah, I think it could be better. And as soon as you get like a discard pip on this, it's really sad. Okay, Lifting Buddy. This one's interesting. Lifting Buddy is a 5-power giant that says play, fight, reap. Give Lifting Buddy 2+1 power counters and give another friendly creature 2+1 power counters. I really like this ability, and the fact that you can trigger it on reap afterwards, it's pretty cool and really insane for something like Might Makes Right, because you're getting +4 power every time you use the Lifting Buddy. It's insane. Okay, then we have Follow the Leader, which is an action that says for the remainder of the turn, each friendly creature may fight. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I find so often this card comes up when it won't matter. So that's kind of a bummer, but in theory, it's kind of cool. Okay, Fight to the End is an action with an amber. When you play it, you choose a friendly creature, and if you're haunted, the creature gains skirmish. You ready and fight with the creature. Then we have Earthshaker. It's a 7-power giant that says play destroy each creature with power 3 or lower. Okay. Earthshaker is always good. Then we have Crim Torchtooth, a 7-power giant with splash attack 4, and after it fights, you enrage each of its neighbors. This one's pretty cool in theory. I just haven't had this matter very much in real games, but it is a cool idea, and I don't think it's bad. Okay, Concussive Transfer is really weird. It's an action. When you play it, you deal 3 to a creature. Great, but then you redistribute all damage on creatures among all creatures. Which, yeah, I mean, heal everything and put all the damage on one thing. I don't know. That's pretty crazy. Then we have Cannon. It's an artifact and weapon. When you action it, you deal 2 to a creature. Burn the Stockpile is an action. When you play it, if your opponent has 7 or more amber, they lose 4. Some more of that nice Brobnar amber control. And then we have Bone Crusher, which is an upgrade with an amber that gives a creature action, destroy a creature. So this one I think is pretty bad, actually. Why? Because Brobnar doesn't want to do this. Brobnar wants to fight. And so if you're putting an upgrade on one of your Brobnar creatures that says action, destroy a creature, usually that's really less than ideal. And I don't know that you really want to put it on something outside of Brobnar either. I don't know. It seems to me kind of like a bummer card. I don't love it. Okay, then we have Awakened Titan. This is a 10-power giant with Taunt. It enhances 3 damage, or 3 discard pips rather. But it says that it can't ready unless you are haunted. And that's pretty interesting. It's also interesting. It's not a location when there's clearly like a city on its back, but oh well. But yeah, this is an interesting card. 10-power Taunt is pretty serious. Very nice protection for some of your cards. Then we have Yo Mama Mastery. It's an upgrade with an amber, and it gives a creature Taunt, and when you play it, you fully heal the creature. I think it's okay. All right, Tireless Crockett. Oh, is that a rare? That is a rare. So we're into rares now. Tireless Krokag is a 7-power giant with versatile. It can't reap, and if there are no enemy creatures, you destroy it. So it's an interesting card. Yeah, I'll give it that. It's interesting. Then we have the big one. It's an artifact with an amber. It's a weapon. It says after a creature is played, you put a fuse counter on it. If there are 10 or more fuse counters on it, you destroy each creature and artifact. That's pretty interesting, and yeah, I think it's a pretty fun card. Difficult. The 10's a big number, and so the problem with this card in any sort of like competitive situation is you can't trigger it when you would want to necessarily or reliably, and you also give your opponent the ability to trigger it when they would want to. So it probably, I think, just gives a little too much agency to your opponent to be really good in competitive play. All right, then we have Rorag Screamer. This is a 6-power giant that says after it fights, you ready it. If you scrap it, you choose a creature, and for the remainder of the turn, that creature loses elusive and all of its armor. Yeah, so it likes to fight. All right, an oldie but goodie, Rock Hurling Giant is a 6-power giant that says after you discard a Brobnar card from your hand during your turn, you may deal 4 damage to a creature. I think this has always been a good card. It's even better in a set that wants to constantly discard cards. So yeah. Okay, Returning Champion is a 10-power giant. When you play it, you deal 3 damage to it, and if you're haunted, then after it fights, you move all damage from it to another creature. That's kind of interesting. Kind of 2 birds with 1 stone thing against your opponent. All right, Old Boomy's back. Old Boomy is a 2-power goblin scientist. After it reaps, you reveal cards from the top of your deck until you reveal a Brobnar card or choose to stop. And then you deal 2 damage to Old Boomy if a Brobnar card was revealed. You archive each card revealed this way. Yeah, this is some more efficiency. Hard to get this to actually fire, and then how much efficiency you actually get out of it is kind of random. But you know, odds are you'll get like 1 or 2 cards, and maybe more if you get lucky. So yeah, I think it's a fun card. And that brings us to Might Makes Right, which is an action with an amber that says you may destroy any number of friendly creatures with total power of 25 or more. If you do, forge a key at no cost. And that's a pretty strong ability. And I feel like, compared to the set this originated in, which was Age of Ascension, in Grim Reminders, the average size of a Brobnar creature is actually bigger. So I think this has gotten bigger, or better rather, in Grim Reminders than it was in previous sets. And add to that the fact that you can get, Winds of Death, just archiving all your creatures and stuff like that. It's just crazy. Okay. Looter Goblin is a 2-power goblin with elusive. After it reaps for the remainder of the turn, you gain an amber after an enemy creature is destroyed. Then we have Iron Obelisk. It's an artifact and location. It says your opponent's keys cost +1 for each friendly damaged Brobnar creature. This is a nice artifact control card. I like it. Okay, Igon the Green is a 4-power giant. When it's destroyed, you purge it, and then you return an Igon the Terrible from your discard pile to your hand. This is back from Worlds Collide. It's still bad, but the whole idea is you get Igon the Green, it automatically brings in Igon the Terrible. You can't play Igon the Terrible. It just automatically destroys itself. But unless Igon the Green has been purged. And then Igon the Terrible is great because he's an 8-power with Fight, Steal 1. But I'm not impressed. Okay. Then we have Forge Master Og, who's a 4-power giant that says after a player forges a key, they lose all of their remaining amber. That's pretty cool. I think that can be quite good, and it's especially good in a set that is super bursty to play against your opponent. Okay, Fling is an action with an amber. When you play it, you destroy a friendly creature, and if you do, you deal damage to an enemy creature equal to the destroyed creature's power with 3 splash. That's a long explanation, but yeah, seems interesting. You could like fight with something and then fling it, or reap and then fling it. I don't know. There's good options. Then we have, because it doesn't have to be ready, right? All right, final refrain. This one's also interesting. It's an action. When you play it, you put each creature from your discard pile into play ready, then fight with them one at a time, and then you destroy each creature that was put into play this way. That seems difficult to track. TCO does it, but also a lot of cool options to get value out of your creatures and cards this way. All right, Curse of Cowardice is an artifact. It's a curse. It's a treachery, or it has treachery, so it comes into play under your opponent's control. And it says that at the end of your turn, which would be your opponent's turn if they control it, if you did not use any creatures to fight this turn, you lose 2 amber. If there are no friendly creatures in play, you destroy Curse of Cowardice. So your opponent really has to clear their own side of the board and then pass a turn to get rid of this, which is good for you. Countryside Crusher is an 8-power giant that says after it fights, if your opponent is haunted, you may ready and fight with a neighboring creature. I like that. And if you scrap it, you ready and fight with the least powerful friendly creature. That's pretty interesting and weird. Brothers in Battle is an action with an amber that says choose a house, and for the remainder of the turn, each friendly creature of that house may fight. So much fight going on here. Brawling Grounds is an artifact with an amber and location, and it has Omni for the remainder of the turn. Each time a creature is destroyed in a fight, its controller discards a random card from their hand. That's an interesting effect. I like it. Gives you some disruption, actually, some serious disruption in Brobnar. All right, and here's Beanstalk. Beanstalk is kind of crazy. It's an artifact and location. It says that friendly giant creatures enter play ready. That's so good. I mean, whew, that would be a very sought after card if it just said that. But wait, there's more, because it says action, search your deck and discard pile for a giant creature, reveal it and put it into your hand. That's crazy. So you just get to keep plopping out more giants. They come in ready. It's an insane card. Lastly, we have the one artifact control card in Brobnar, barehanded. It's an action with an amber that says put each artifact on top of its owner's deck. It's pretty soft artifact control. Okay, so that was Brobnar. I hope you saw all the fights they want to have, all the amber they want to delete. I think they're pretty fun and cool, very key 4G. And yeah, I love it. So hope you enjoyed, and that maybe it gave you some insights that could help you with your play of a Grim Reminders Brobnar deck. And with that, I just hope you'll get out there and forge some keys.